I do want to bring up one of your past shows, which I'm sure you've never talked about before, Lost.
Never.
It is
First
related.
time. I'm
Never,
anxious to talk about it.
never.
David Young is alive.
When he died, I trained his daughter to be the most valuable asset in this organization. They know all our secrets.
I really enjoy Butterfly. It was so great to see you in a leading role. I did want to first ask you, one thing I enjoyed about Butterfly is that, while it's a spy show, it's also a show about love, the love that people feel for each other, families or non-related. What did you find most interesting about the way Butterfly speaks on love and what you really got to explore with that?
Wow, thank you for that question and thank you for that observation because I think that's really the heart of the show, you know. It's about the love that parents have for their children and vice versa, as well as the different kinds of love, kind of manifested through, his wife and his other relationships. And so, what happens when that love gets tested? What happens when there's betrayal involved, the way that Rebecca sees David's actions, and how permanent is that? Will can that love be between a parent and a child? Just because you have a biological bond, does that mean you're obligated to love? And these are central questions to the show. And I think despite all the conflicts among all the characters, at the heart of every one of those relationships is love. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. So thank you for picking up on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was very obvious from the beginning, and it was so beautifully done how you guys portray how difficult love can be, but also very beautiful. And being an executive producer and, the lead in the series, was there any pressure to kind of live up to past iconic spy action series or films, or were you really trying to create something new that is a trailblazer itself?
I think the emphasis was trying to tell the story the best way we could, because in some ways the show is original, and in other ways, we've seen many examples of the genre before, in the action adventure series. So, we would point to certain shows and say like, oh, the way they use, the fight sequences in this show or this movie is something that we should be mindful of, or we don't want to do something like this. And so there were nice little ways of calibrating our show in relation to, many films and shows that came before it.
And I do want to bring up one of your past shows, which I'm sure you've never talked about before, Lost.
Never.
It is
First
related.
time. I'm
Never,
anxious to talk about it.
never. I know you said before that you had to relearn Korean to play Jin or something of that caliber, and you speak it mainly on this show as well. And all these years later, how did speaking Korean come to you on Butterfly, having that experience on Lost?
It's really fun to me to hear the experiences of Korean actors speaking English on our show because they tell me something that I always felt but I wasn't sure was valid, and that is, it's one thing to be able to speak a second language. It's a whole other level of difficulty to be able to act in a second language. And to go back to the answer to your question, like my Korean has never been better than it is right now. And then while I was shooting the show, but when I was acting, there were still the kind of like the ghosts of like, is your Korean good enough? Or, are you going to be criticized? And and the fact is, I know I don't speak like a Korean native, but the beauty of David Jung's character is he doesn't have to, you know. He is
Mhm.
a Korean American. And that's one of the things that's unique about this show that we haven't seen before. We haven't really seen the Korean American experience in Korea, the way that David is experiencing it. And I feel really lucky that we're in a place in our culture where the story of two different cultures can be told by someone who has experience in both.
Yeah, and speaking of South Korea, filming in that area, I remember watching the series, and there were moments where, your character was in these very tight, crowded spaces, like markets or just streets, and I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, this has to feel like claustrophobic. And you're also doing these really intense stunts. How did you go about like pulling off all these scenes, and especially action scenes, while not feeling claustrophobic and constrained as an actor?
First of all, we had a great crew who actually could assemble all of these extras, and work all through the night with, 100, 150 extras in markets and train stations and things like that. So I give a lot of credit to them. But it wasn't hard for me to do my work in those environments because I've been there, and I know that that's a part of Korea. And so again, that level of authenticity not only helps the show, but helps me as the actor. I know as the actor that I want that because that is how those markets are. I know from my own experience, and that allows me when I'm envisioning my work as an actor to already understand that as part of the given circumstances. And so I think that's another way that our show feels like the Korea that I know. And it's a compliment to me when the Korean people who have seen the show say the same thing.
Mhm. Well, it was fantastic and incredibly well done. And unfortunately, I do have to let you go, but you have been so great to talk to about the show. So thank you for speaking to me today.
Thank you.